We are what? We are who? We are what? Vibrant. We are who? 50 plus. Hi, welcome to Gray Lives on the Rise. I am your host, Professor Jamila Franklin, and we are coming to you from Oyende Enterprises, being sponsored by Jamila Sense, which is our product line of aromatherapy products that helps heal the mind, body, and soul. And we are bringing to you Alamaj's rebirthing program, as well as Jamila Sense and a host of wonderful programs that will help heal your body, heal your soul, and heal your mind. 50 plus people, we are here to stay. Gray Lives on the Rise. We are what? We are who? We are vibrant, and we are here to stay. Join us for our wonderful episodes. Thank you, and continue to look for our episodes weekly, being brought to you again from Oyende Enterprises and Jamila Sense. See you soon. Greetings, beloved. Hi, it's Professor Jamila Franklin, and we are here again for Gray Lives on the Rise. Like I said, we have the wonderful pleasure of having Miss Kim Purejoy. And let me tell you about Kim. Kim Purejoy is a wellness coach, a nutritionist, mother, and an advocate for embracing pure joy and purpose, especially in your season of life. Ms. Purejoy has had not just a lifelong passion for natural health education and a compassion for service to the community, but also 2 decades of service in the wellness industry. A lot of that time she has been spent as wellness manager of one of the busiest health food stores in the country. There she consulted with countless numbers of people to address their health issues, presented many community health events, and where she also gained an in-depth knowledge regarding nutrients and herbs. Over the years, Ms. Purejoy has taught healthy cooking classes and presented around the country in many forums, accumulating testimonies and proving the power of nutrients and the body's innate ability to heal itself if given what it needs. Over the years, Ms. Purejoy has also been an advocate for truth and justice and support for the underserved by working as a court-appointed advocate in juvenile court for at-risk children. See, that's so important because a lot of these babies don't have anyone like him to advocate for them. You know, if they do, they're getting paid, and they are not really committed to having parity for these children. She is. And also as a paralegal advocate for the homeless. Additionally, Ms. Purejoy works in the schools and with parents to assist children, families with holistic guidance, particularly regarding the nutritional needs of children with ADD, ADHD, autism, and other behavior or learning challenges. Oh, that is so important, because we see this proliferation of children now who have been diagnosed with ADD and ADHD and who have been labeled as autistic. And Kim knows the nutritional support that these children need. Also through her website, purejoyhealthexpress.com, and she's going to give that again during our talk, Ms. Purejoy provides quality health products and information, especially with a focus on restoring mitochondria to empower the body and brain to overcome disease and degeneration. She is available for private consultations, grief counseling, speaking engagements, and community health fairs. Ms. Purejoy is also committed to the mission of community service and wellness for all ages through her ongoing work to establish the EIP Youth Empowerment and Purejoy Wellness in our center in memory of her daughter, Elise Imani Purejoy. So, and I'm going to give some information now. If you want to contact her, her telephone number is 770-367-5937. And her email is purenutritionalhealth@gmail.com. So she's going to give that information again. I just wanted to make sure that you make note of it now. Kim, thank you. I have known of her for a couple of years. I've seen her on Facebook, and I've just been so impressed by Kim. She's just amazing. And her commitment to health and ensuring that communities, particularly communities of color, have accurate information about nutrition and health. Because a lot of times people run to the doctors, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's your choice. But some of these things can be addressed by nutrition, diet, and just changing your thinking. So Kim is the person. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sister Jamila, for all that you do, all that you've done, all you continue to do, what you represent and stand for. And I, too, have followed you for a while and admired you from afar, as they say. And I'm so grateful to have finally had the opportunity to meet you a few years ago. And you're even more vibrant and full of pure joy than your images and your online presence represents. So thank you.
I
Thank you
love it.
for the movement.
This is a mutual admiration club here, because I have
Yes.
so much respect,
Yes.
so much respect for you and your work. So I mean, this is going to be like, we're going to go into this from different directions. So you're originally from Indianapolis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indiana. That's my hometown. Yes.
So what brought you to Georgia, and how did you make the segue into nutrition and wellness and health coaching?
Yes. So I came to Atlanta in 1983 to attend college. So I came straight out of high school, and I came here as this new adventure, in a sense, to attend Spelman College. And
Spelman, HBCU, okay.
Yes. So I, at the time, wanted to be an attorney, and I had the mindset of, a lot of us as servants, in a sense, and wanted to save the world. And, I wanted to help right wrongs and injustices in the world, particularly relating to children and just, especially, our people of color and that sort of thing. And so I attended Spelman College. I was fortunate enough to be in the honors program for those 2 years. And yes, and so by different circumstances, my mother ended up moving here, and I ended up helping her and things like that. So I ended up transferring to Georgia State, and that's why where I graduated. And along the way, I ended up not becoming an attorney. I ended up working and being in school a lot longer than I had originally thought I would be. And so along the lines is where I ended up working as an insurance adjuster and handling people's claims and dealing with, people dealing with the traumatic, upsetting situation and investigating those things and settling cases and things like that. So that gave me enough of a taste of the legal world. And I ended up realizing, it's like, I don't think I want to be an attorney. Because I didn't quite find at that time, back in those days, the niche that really fit my. And so fast forward, I ended up becoming a paralegal advocate with the homeless at the Law Center for the Homeless, and that really fit me. It's like, yes, I'm an advocate, and I like the legal field, and I like to research things and figure out the solutions, and more so assist the attorneys, and they do all that, convoluted red tape bureaucratic stuff. But I'm just trying to figure out what's the right and the wrong and how to support the people. And that got me involved in social services and child welfare services. And along the way, I did end up becoming a court-appointed special advocate for children. And that was as a volunteer, but I was probably like, the hardest working volunteer because I handled it like it was a job. And I was involved in the Victims of Prostitution program that was a part of the Child Advocate program, also known as CASA. And that just really deepened my awareness and understanding of the issues that we and our children deal with, and helping to be a part of solutions. And along the way, during that time, I was also married and a mother of four with young children and juggling all of those things. And along the way with that, as it's like, as they say, charity begins at home. So in taking care of my own family, I wanted to do more and be better at the nutrients and being responsible with feeding my family healthy foods. I've always been health conscious and pretty decent with that. And it's interesting to come in contact with people who've known me since high school or even younger, and for them to say, you've always done that. You've always been into that. All the things that I do, I've always been into. But along the way, I did start to focus and turn the corner into becoming more of a health advocate and becoming a nutritionist, a registered nutritional consultant, and a wellness coach, and kind of incorporating all those aspects of searching for truth and justice, and then this form in terms of wellness. So, well, that was a long answer to your question.
No, it was perfect because you brought me from early Kim to current day Kim, and I was going to ask you, how did you segue from this to this? And you answered all of that perfectly. It's amazing. And when I've seen you on Facebook and when I've seen you in person, you exude compassion, knowledge, confidence, and dedication. And when we were at this kind of like wellness fair at this church, and I was listening to your presentation, I said, she has to be on my podcast if she's old enough. Because when I looked at, I didn't think that you were out of your 40s. So I said, well, you're what?
60. I turned 60 this year. Woo!
You are a walking testimony for people who need to get their health together. Because remember I asked you, I said, well, how old are you? Because looking at you, no one would ever say 60. No one. You're a walking testimony of an integration of health, nutrition, positive thinking, and compassion. So I know that when people look at you and listen to you, because I saw the people lined up at your table, and they're like, oh, if she said it, if she looks like this, I need to get on the bandwagon and do it myself. That's what I could see them saying too. But in the midst of this, I know that you experienced some tragedy too. So if you don't mind sharing that story, because that too has propelled you into another area as well. So, and I saw it and I read about it in the news, and I was just so, it touched me. It touched me.
Yes. Yes, I don't mind sharing about that because, all of us go through something. And, hopefully for most people, it's not the loss of a child. But in my case, that's what happened suddenly, unexpectedly, and all of that. 6 years ago in June of 2019 is when my daughter, Kimberly Purefoy, and I remember to bring her picture in here.
Yeah, raise it up. Oh, she's beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Article from or something. I didn't see this till years later from BET. But that's my oldest daughter, Elise, and I still feel her presence with me. So she was a rising senior at Arabia Mountain High School, And she had always been an honor student. She had always been athletic and active. And
Mm.
she was very quiet, but she decided in third grade that she wanted to be a cheerleader. And I said, Elise, you know, you're going to have to cheer. You're going to have to say, shout. But she tried out and she made it. And she ended up, she taught herself all these things, how to flip and jump and do all these things off of YouTube. And she was quiet, but she became the captain, and she was very dedicated to excellence in whatever she did. This was her own motivation and push. I would be the one, you know, I was always an A student, but I'm like, Elise, you're up late. Go to sleep. Mommy will write you a note. It's okay. I don't want you to be stressed. But she's like, no, she always wanted to do what she was supposed to do. So she was a cheerleader all those years. And then when she got to high school, she went out for cheerleading and she was chosen number 2 out of 60 girls, I think, you know, to make the team. Well, by her um, going into her junior year, she decided to go out for the dance team. Now I take some responsibility for not the dance team, but encouraging her to do something different because she had always been a cheerleader and a dancer, and that's wonderful. But I wanted her to try to blossom more and use your voice. And I was like, high school is a time when you can explore different things and other aspects of yourself. So the debate team, the glee club, or if they still call it that, because she had a beautiful voice, but she was so quiet. Well, she decided to go out for the dance team. And she had me take her to one of their, events. And I saw that it was very intense. And I knew it would be very stressful based on what I even had witnessed with her over the years with the cheerleading. And so I'm like, Elise, this is going to be a lot. I didn't want her to be stressed, and all of that. But she went out for the team for her junior year and she didn't make it. And she was heartbroken. I mean, that's the first time she didn't make something. And I told her, I said, well, Elise, maybe God is trying to tell you something. Maybe there's something else for you to do. I thought I had gotten through to her, but little did I know that she had intentions on sticking to that goal. And the next year, she had taken private dance lessons because she was working by then and driving, had her own money, and had really focused to improve, and she made that team. So all I did was be proud of her that she met her goal and she made that team. Well, what I didn't know and expect, of course, was that, well, I guess I did, but I didn't know what their process was. But there would be a summer conditioning workout training that would start in June, and Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 3:30. And so the bottom line is that the second week of practice, she experienced a problem, and the reports go, and this is what this BET, this was why it was national news, because it said that Elise Purefoy's teammates say she asked her coach for water several times but was denied. Now, Elise didn't have any known health issues or anything. Um,
Mm. Mm.
and I didn't know that until maybe a week or two after she passed. And there was an article in 11 Live News that came out called The Culture of Hazing on that dance team, because after what happened to my daughter, um, a dancer, former dance member on that team, came forth. She didn't want to be identified, came forth with her mother to say that this had been going on for years on that dance team, where they would work the girls out outside. This is outside in the summer, work them out, work them out. And then when they would beg for water, instead of just giving them water, they would make them run some more laps, and
Oh
then
my
make
goodness.
them, yeah, and then they would make them do a dance routine, and then they would give them water. And I just happened to have this here with me, just happened to have, they would give them water in a bottle cap.
What?
Yes, that you can still find that article if you Google Elise, Elyse, Purefoy, Puref as in Frank, OY. And The coach,
Well, and a calf after doing all of that?
yes. And so in my daughter's case, from all accounts, she was, as it said, she was denied water several times. And so until she collapsed. And I found out really 2 years later when I finally read the legal documents for myself that the ambulance were not called for an hour after she collapsed. And during that time,
Oh,
they were putting buckets of ice, throwing ice on her and all this sort of thing instead of calling 911. And
oh,
and that's on the ambulance report. I was just reading the ambulance report, and it clocked the time that the call came in, and it put the notes in terms of what the school told them about what time she collapsed, and that was an hour before the call came in, for 911. So when they got there, they called me twice from the field on her phone. The coach called me and they said, "Oh, it sounded like they were saying she had passed out." It didn't sound like it was as serious as it was the way they related, because I know I've passed out before and, kind of fainted, a couple times in my life. And it sounded like they said, "Well, she passed out but she's, like she's okay or something. And we're going to take her to Eggleston." That was just a children's hospital at Emory. It sounded like to check her out. So I'm like, okay, like I'm on my way. But I did ask, I said, "Is she conscious?" Because I'm thinking as a nutritionist, just logically,
yeah, yeah,
conscious. And I also wanted to talk to my daughter, And,
yeah.
and she said yes. I said, "Well, put her on the phone." And she's like, "Well, no, they're trying to get her to the hospital." So it's like, okay. A few minutes later, they called me back again, and on her phone, and the lady said, "The paramedics want to talk to you." And so they she put him on the phone, and I immediately said, "What's going on?" Because something didn't seem right, and I'm wondering, why haven't you left for the hospital? And he said, "Well, we want to ask you some questions." And I said again, I said, "Is she conscious?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Put her on the phone," because I'm imagining her probably afraid and all this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Her. And he said, "Well, we're trying to get her to the hospital. We just want to ask you a couple questions, trying to figure out what could be causing this." And they said, "Well, do you know if she takes any energy drinks or anything?" I said, "Well, no, I don't even buy juice. I'm a nutritionist. She works at Zaxby's and she probably drinks their juices and stuff. But no," I said, "I give vitamins." "Well, what vitamins?" I told him, and he was like, "Well, we're just trying to figure it out." Okay. And then that was it. So they're headed on. So that lets you know right there, they still didn't immediately take her to the hospital. He's laying on the field and they're trying to figure stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up that her heart stopped on the way to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, they told me that, but they said that they had gotten it back and they worked on her for about another 2 hours. And then, as I was really, I don't know if you all have heard of the Ho'oponopono prayer. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
literal prayer, it's opening a space for whatever type of healing, because I immediately recognized um, not thinking she was going to pass away, but I'm thinking about, the heart. She's never had any
Yeah.
heart issues. And I didn't know anything about the depriving her of water, denying the water. I didn't know any of that at the time. It's just that this just thing happened.
Yeah.
And, it's just like the Twilight Zone. And
Yeah.
I knew they were working on her heart. They wouldn't let us see her. Well, during that time, my mother was there, her dad, my ex-husband was there. Well, he and I haven't had the best, co-parenting experience,
Mm.
over the years. And I feel like I'm conscious enough to make that happen, but he's where he is or what. So as he's standing there and he loves his children, and I could tell it wasn't processing. So I'm putting my hand on his heart and I'm making him say the Ho'oponopono prayer. And I was like, if there's anything wrong with her heart, and this is not blaming anyone, but I know in her quiet way, she had said some things over the years about how the divorce had impacted her and our lack of communication. And I said, and this, connects to the reality that issues get in the tissues, not to take away from the reality of the negligence that occurred, but at the same time, this showed up in her heart. We're fighting for her life, for her heart, and so, and I knew in my heart that, if anything was wrong with her heart, it's like she's carrying the lack of forgiveness that won't let go. It just came. Now this is, our daughter's fighting for us, and I'm like, I'm trying to break this on any level while their job, even though they didn't get to Eggleston, they went to the local. They called me back and they said they were rerouting to just the closest little hospital, and they were really under-equipped. And I don't even think a doctor was in there. It was a paramedic that presided over the situation. So she, they told us in the end that we had to say goodbye. And so, since that time, my journey really shifted, and I questioned myself as a nutritionist, just in the sense of not as a nutritionist, but overall my purpose, because I, just as a human being and the deep grief and shock, I'm feeling like, how can I help other people if my own daughter passed away, a seemingly healthy 17-year-old? And I was kind of lost for a while. And I didn't go back to work till, the next year and all of that. And just, a lot. And so along the way, and leading to this point in time, I just incorporated the other aspect of the issues getting in the tissues. I had heard of that, and a lot of us know, and I'm familiar with Louise Hay, and life. This is, you can heal your life, heal your heart, but it's also a Louise Hay book. And so, and it's like, I have to go deeper. I was conscious of that, but I didn't address it. And before then, I didn't really feel equipped to really address that other aspect of what happens to us. Because at this point in time, I'm fighting to save myself, just emotionally. Physically, I may have had it under control, but the reality is the other aspect of our health on a physical level, like you talk about, and I'm so excited to hear and want to follow you further about the ancestral trauma. And this is before we were even aware, in terms of the ancestral trauma, and then what's happened in our lifetime in terms of the things that we cope with and we deal with it. And one of the most, regular sayings people say when you may say, how you doing? And we may know a lot of people say, how you doing? But don't really, maybe not really invested in the answer, the real answer. Nice people say, I'm good, or I'm fine, good, I'm good, sort of thing. And so it's like, okay, we have to go further than that. And that's, what, one of my passions now. And I did end up going back to the store, and I would, just really address even further, maybe talking about some kind of health issue the person has, or a heart issue. And I'm like, just gently, just being with them in a sense of like, what is really going on with them.
Are you looking at things on so many different levels, on the physical level, the emotional level, the spiritual level? And that's what was coming through to you. And as you so beautifully stated with your beloved, beautiful daughter, because of the divorce between you and your ex-husband, it affected her on an energy level in terms of her heart, and then it manifested on a physical level when they deprived her of the water.
And pushed her, yeah, and deprived her of the water. Yes.
Yeah. And so I just commend you, because losing a child is not even fathomable for parents. They expect to precede their children. And when
Yeah.
it's the opposite, your brain just can't wrap itself around it. Particularly with your being, like you said, a wellness person, nutritionist, and all that. And she had no presenting illnesses. So that's the last thing that you would think would happen. Yeah. And what happens with us, so we have uh, an assignment when we come to this planet, when we incarnate. And there's a beginning date and an end date, and our spirit knows. When we've served our purpose, then it's time for us to go back home, because this is a temporary journey here. And it's hard to fathom. But I remember Sissy Houston, Whitney Houston's mom, said that when Whitney was born, she said the Holy Spirit told her that Whitney would not be with her for a long, long period of time, and she dismissed it. And she remembered that spiritual message when Whitney transitioned, because she had served the purpose that she had come here to serve. So intellectually, we can understand that. Emotionally, it's a different thing. We can read all the spiritual books and know it intellectually and say, oh, yeah, okay. But something like that hits your heart. And no matter how metaphysical or spiritual, or if you're a guru or whatever, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt.
Exactly. And that are really all the aspects of what occurs to me now. And, as I work through that for myself and also work through it for other people. And as you say, my assignment, part of my assignment shifted to just to add a deeper component
Mm.
to how you can actually help people. Because even let's say with COVID, a lot of people talk about how their life changed during that time, because of the isolation and the fear and the loss of loved ones and things like that. And there is a condition that's a documented condition studied by Harvard now. And I have a friend who's a cardiologist who first brought it to my attention, called the broken heart syndrome. And that
Mm.
showed up, in numbers. It's a physiological condition of the heart. And it's called the broken heart syndrome because, the common denominator is people who've lost loved ones, husbands, wives, particularly after COVID, a lot of isolation, and the heart gets broken.
Mhm.
And like you said, we understand and we can process things on an intellectual level, and we always tend to rationalize our heart, our feelings, and especially when someone transitions, we say what we know to say, which is they're in a better place, they're not suffering anymore. Even God knows when, their time and all those sorts of things. And we can intellectualize and rationalize those things, but we have to still recognize a space for, as in this book, the heart. The heart is a feeling, live, living, it's called the emperor of all the organs,
Yeah.
and on a physical level, it's like the engine. And, and energetically, the emotions that are stored in the heart or are grief and resentment, broken heart,
Mm.
um, even deep. I don't even say deep hatred because hatred is deep on its own, but even joy, joy,
Yeah.
the heart, but certainly shock and trauma, all those things. Well, if we look as the song goes, when I look back over my life and I think things over, even those that have a consciousness of transforming energy into and transforming experiences into a higher understanding, we still have
Mhm.
to acknowledge the human body into
Yes.
on an energetic level, how these emotions and experiences get stored. And I'm sure that's what you deal with in dealing with ancestral trauma. And this experience became even more real to me when over a year ago, I started experiencing heart issues. Now I'm the well, and I never claim perfection, but still in terms of like, yes, I, was my late 50s, but I was stumped, because I was doing everything I knew to do on a
Mm.
physical level. And when I started experiencing the issues, I amped it up even further. I'm taking everything I know to take. I tightened up my diet to just pristine, and still the problem persisted.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to have a reckoning with myself because, when you help other people, sometimes you just don't think like that you need help.
Yeah.
You're helping other people. You may not consciously think that, but and so I had to think, I was like, Kim, now all the things that you've been through, even though you learned on the metaphysical aspect of those things and you went to Landmark, self-development, and that helped me mentally even to get through Elise's transition and all of those things. And even though right after Elise passed, and I didn't know what was in the news about what happened, why people are so angry, but just a voice spoke to me and said, Kim, don't get angry. And I'm looking like, well, what? Don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, you know, just was a force that was helping to center me. So I just maintained this way of being in, just being in control of my emotions. I mean, I had my moments and I still made from time to time, and I embraced that with the understanding of, I'm a live living being and with a heart that beats and bleeds
Yeah.
sometimes. Let these emotions come out. But I had to think back even further than Elise, and there's all kinds of grief. There'd be divorce and loss of job that you feel like you really gave your all and they didn't
Mm-hmm.
do right by you or whatever. It could be a loss of different stages of life where we start to embrace, our season, as we say. And I even, a friend of mine, he's more elder than me. I said, do you consider yourself because I said, I think I may be like a freshman, senior, at the time, like freshman, junior, sophomore, senior. And
Mm-hmm.
a senior says I got an AARP card and I qualify for a few things, but I didn't really think of myself as an elder. And I said, no, I think I may be a freshman, senior, maybe a sophomore, senior. And he's 77. I said, well, what do you consider yourself? And he's a disabled advocate, by the way. And he said, I'm a senior citizen. And it just hit me differently though when he said that. I'm like, oh, like in terms of like an honor to that. Like if you say, this is our senior representative, when I was a
Mm-hmm.
claims adjuster, I became a senior claims representative, or we have our senior manager or whatever. And that's
Mm-hmm.
honor. And so when he said it like that, I got it like, oh, I'm a citizen and I'm a senior citizen. Like
Mm-hmm.
that rapper said, put some respect on my name, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the concept of how we kind of, get disrespected and people make jokes about being a senior. It's like, oh, what the elders say, you only could, hope and pray that you get to be, you know, a seasoned citizen. So at any rate, I had to realize that, over all these years have gone by. And even though I'm so thankful for the grace, that the Most High God has given me, and as they say, I may not look like what I've been through. Sometimes I have moments I can see it, but God can transform it and lift that, because I think it's just a weight of things, that shows like that we frown a lot and we worry a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know, trying to see sometimes, but that settles in our faces and in
Yeah.
our posture. And of course, we know about the nutrients and all those things that contribute or support those processes in either direction. But I had to come to terms with that for all my grace and just calm presence, and balance
Mm-hmm.
way of being a diplomatic with dealing with things over the years as a paralegal, as a claims adjuster, as dealing with the public and a manager. It's like, okay, everything's going to be okay. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I had to realize, who am I to think that the things I've experienced, this is not settling in my body? And I realized that a lot of things had started to settle in my heart. And that's what was going on with me. And even though I know what happened to Elise, even though they ended up saying the official cause of death 2 months later was that she had a heart defect, which didn't add up. But that was what they put on her official cause of death. And again, it didn't add up. But either way it goes, I recognize that ultimately it was her heart that stopped, and I'm her mother, you know. And if heart disease is the number one killer in this country, or cardiovascular issues, and she didn't have heart disease, but still, I had to recognize that I'm feeling something in my heart, and I didn't. I wasn't on a track and denied water like her, but after almost 60 years at the time, things that take a toll. So I really have to look at these, clearly for myself. And that's what was going on with my heart. The issues got in the tissues. And so I had intentionally shut a lot of things down because, there's a beauty in being a giver and a servant, but you can be an overgiver and also not serve yourself as well. So I had to take a real season of shutting things down and helping myself. I was doing all the physical stuff, but my heart was telling on me in a very critical way. And even the spiritual counselor, when it got really bad, I called her, and I didn't want to tell people because, I'm the wellness lady, but at the same time, I also recognize that when you're the one that helps people, practically speaking, people don't know what to say or how to help you. So it's no sense
That's true.
telling.
Yeah.
And people's like, oh, well, and they just feel sorry for you. And that's
Yeah.
what. So I just told my spiritual counselor, I didn't tell her. I called her because I just knew she sees things, and she told me. And she said it's due to anxiety, you know,
Mm.
which, anxiety/grief. And she said, if you don't change, she said, she sees things and she hasn't been wrong in 9 years. She said, you're out of here. She said, I see the lights going out, and
Mm.
putting all those things together, like I had to shut things down and help myself. And I did have what they call something, an ace in my back pocket. Um, and that's how I got started on the mitochondria journey, because through my research, when I was doing everything I knew to do, and it wasn't changing, I researched further and I came across that the heart needs the most mitochondria. And I'm like, mitochondria? I've heard of that. My mentor, Dr. Joy, she's been talking about this, this thing that restores your mitochondria. And so once I researched that, and I'm like, I don't know what else to do. I got that, the things that restore your mitochondria, and I'm telling you, within 2 weeks, um, it was gone. The physical symptoms. Now I was doing the other things, like I shut down. I wasn't even talking to people on the phone. Like people call you, they tell you the problems, and you're helping and giving and going. I had to shut everything down. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I took the restore, which I still take. And it's literally that it's a very clean urban. I've been the manager. I've seen thousands of products. I'm not impressed by a lot of things. Like, yeah, hype, all that kind of stuff. No, but I know what it did for me. I know what it did for my friend with stage 4 cancer that had spread to her brain. And I'm learning and seeing so many other people that it saved lives. And if there's anything, else that attributes to restoring the vitality, because as we age and
Mm-hmm.
gray lives on the rise, well, we have to counter on a physical level the lessening of energy, which is
Right.
of mitochondria. They're literally the battery chargers for the cells. And so what we liken to age is really a loss of power. And so
Yeah.
hard to accept it as normal that our posture, our mobility, our brains, and these other diseases and imbalances that happen. It's like, oh, cancer happened, heart,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they're older. Well, the body is innately designed to take care of all that. You know, we have an immune system. We don't even have to worry about it. It's like, I got you. I'm seeking and destroying cancer cells, because everybody,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to know about it. But as we lose power, the mitochondria lessens. By the age 60, we have maybe 50% if we're doing good. By 80, we might have 10%. So the house of power is like turning the power down in the house. We can't run the washing machine and all those things. So these issues occur. And all the research, because I continue to research, shows that mitochondrial dysfunction, even with the children with ADHD, ADD, even adult ADD, and autism, is mitochondrial dysfunction as a result of toxins, diet and chemical, environmental things, but it still affected the mitochondria. And that's why we've been able to get excellent results with children with autism, nonverbal 6-year-olds in diapers, talking and writing their name. And before, not only being able to say, and the grandmother wanting to eliminate herself. Literally, she confessed to that because she was the caregiver and had everything. And we have these things on video. So that's the other aspect of it, in addition to dealing with the emotional, energetic core thing that is like set the stage for those physical things, the nutritional deficiencies, the toxins, and those things that create the disease.
Well, you know what? The heart really is the brain of the body. They think the brain is up here. They've now doing research, and they have this institute called the Heart Math Institute. But these are things that we have known for generations, particularly people who are part of the African diaspora, that the heart is the driving force for everything. All emotions come basically from the heart. And the heart has the energy to propel you to the next level and to provide life, so to speak. And when you shut it down because of emotional trauma, physical trauma, whatever, the body follows suit. So people now are redirecting their interest from the brain, studying the brain, but really studying the heart, because it is the major brain for the body. And I like what you said about the mitochondria and how we lose power within our bodies as we progress, as we age. And by revving up the power within the mitochondria, we can reverse a lot of so-called diseases and aging. And the fact that people are now seeing that children who were autistic are seeing the differences. They're able to be verbal. Nonverbal children are now able to be verbal and to connect on a human and verbal level. I think what I would like to do now is pause and have you give people your information. Like I gave it to them in the beginning, but I know people will be very interested. And then you had mentioned that Restore, which is a product that you sell, is an agent to help rev up, invigorate the mitochondria. Is that correct?
Exactly, that is correct. So my information, first, my telephone number is 770-367-5937. Again, that's 770-367-5937. If you text, it is best to text me so I can organize the calls and the callbacks. And my website is Purejoy, Pure, Joy, Joy, Health, HEALTH, Express, EXPRESS, purejoyhealthexpress.com. And all pain, sciatica, arthritis, skin issues, all that, they put that on the wounds. And that dog is back and living best life. So it's so many endless testimonies. So that's why, this holistic approach, dealing with the trauma, dealing with the grief, in the body, and dealing with the nutrients, all that is so important. So my website, purejoyhealthexpress.com. And also I just wanted to just go down a quick list in terms of the emotions and the organs, because I, focused a lot on the heart, which is the most important, but also the emotion of anger shows up in the liver, And so I had to deal with that. I didn't have a liver issue, but my eyes stopped being so white. They were starting to become yellow. And I had to recognize it. And I went to a practitioner, and he deals with energy and things like that. And he said, "Who are you angry with?" This is before my daughter passed. And I'm like, "Me? I'm nice." Angry. I don't
Mhm.
agree. But I had to really, just delve a little deeper, and just instead of pushing things down and making everything okay, just deal with how I really felt. So the liver, anger, it can even show up as headaches and high blood pressure, digestive issues. Grief and sadness can show up in the lungs. And if we remember, with our gray lives on the Rise family, I don't have to say so much if you remember, but we all remember Superman, Christopher Reeve, and he became paralyzed, and his wife, that was so dedicated and devoted to taking care of him, and then he ended up passing away. And then shortly after, she died of lung cancer, and she smoked, you know, and but lungs, grief, kidneys, fear, and insecurity. And we think about even children or younger people that may wet the bed, fear, the kidneys, and the stomach and the spleen, worry and overthinking, you know. And so many stories. I know a holistic person who passed away from stomach cancer, but I had experience with her, and she's a business owner, and a good business owner, but very worried, and just, a lot on her, worried, the stomach, you know.
Mhm.
Uh, a good friend had passed away a few years ago, and I was talking to her mother, and she told me how she was having this intense pain and sciatica, and it just settled at the base of her spine. And as we talked, and I realized, and I said, that's the grief that settled there, because she said what she would do, she had become catatonic, where she would just sit and rock every day, in grief, just catatonic, just out, and that grief settled in her body. And I told her, because her daughter was my best friend, and I told her, I was like, her spirit is free, but spirit wants you to, what do you like to do with your body? Like, do you like to dance? I know my friend, she liked to kickbox, and I was like, just move your body. You got to get this grief out, because it's settling, that pain and energy of that is settling there. And your daughter is actually free and wants you to be able to still live your life. And in fact, I need to refer her to her mom, to Gray Lives on the Rise, and everybody needs it. So thank you so much, for what you're doing.
Well, you're so welcome, Kim. We've come to the end of our program, and you've given us so much. Oh my goodness. I was just sitting here just cataloging things in my head, from the mitochondria, from the heart, emotional and physical symptoms. And you've also correlated how the different body parts are affected by the different emotions. And people sometimes intellectually understand that, but they don't really pay attention to it when it shows up in the body. And they start taking things, pharmaceuticals, to address the issue, when in fact it's an emotional issue. So please get in touch with Kim Purejoy. And she's as you can see, she's just amazing. I didn't have to ask her questions to bring things up. She just naturally flowed,
And
and I allowed her to flow.
I apologize, but I want to add one other thing when we're talking about the emotions. As part of the mitochondria package, there is a brain and body component. So as we are dealing with anxiety, even grief and depression, or even just low energy or issues with focusing and memory and maybe a little dementia concerns, there are elements that feed the brain, and we're getting so much success with that, with even emotional intelligence. And people take it along with the oil and all that, and they feel like just the lights have come on. Like
Mm,
people were actually saying, like, did people paint their houses? Because everything was brighter. But
mhm.
for myself,
Yeah.
even going through different challenges, I just feel very centered. I don't feel like on the edge of like panic or breakdown. You know?
Mm-hmm. But what we're going to do is definitely have people get in touch with you so they can hear the full array of services you provide and all of the positive effects of the products Restore and this package that you have. So Kim, thank you so very much for educating us and giving us so much valuable information that we can share with others and take care of ourselves. So as we close, thank you so very much. And we are Gray Lives on the Rise. And go to OyendeEnterprises.com, OYINDE Enterprises, ENTERPRISES.com, and click on Gray Lives on the Rise and find out more. We're here every Sunday. We expect to see you back here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or to visit us via the replay. So thank you for joining us, and namaste. Be well. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Gray Lives on the Rise, being brought to you by Jamila Scents, which is the product line of Oyende Enterprises. Jamila Scents is a 100% natural aromatherapy line that heals the mind, body, and soul. This episode of Gray Lives on the Rise was intended to uplift you, to inspire you, and to motivate you. Please tell all of your friends, family members, and anyone you know who's 50 plus, who's living a vibrant life and interested in doing more and enjoying life even to its fullest. So thank you, and please subscribe, like, and comment on this video and all our videos. Thank you, and until next time, until our next podcast, namaste and be well.